Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to break the ice, be the first on stage, and the challenge to be the first on stage. So in the 20 minutes, the discussion will be about from hardware to software, and how this is impacting the world of IT and networking. And actually, when we look at service providers' dynamics, especially in Africa, we see the usual dichotomy, the usual debate about traffic growing at amazing speed, especially with everything moving to cloud and to video. You will see traffic growing at a pace of probably 150% year on year, which is much faster than, say, in Western Europe or other economies. Revenue line is, of course, constrained to the package and to the mix of what we offer to the market. And so the entire journey to software networking is actually driven by three major criteria. How can we create new monetizable services on a combination of virtualized network platform and data center, reducing operational expenses and creating way more agile platform for service creation? Bear one point in mind. In my experience, in our experience in the telco environment, still the average time from service creation to service launch to really start making money out of the service is anywhere between 6 to 18 months, unfortunately, in the telco environment. When you consider big cloud-based players, that's normally in a matter of weeks. And they have the notion of perpetual beta. So every product launch is actually in beta mode and they keep on improving. So I think the overall discussion today is what are we learning in the telco environment, in the service provider environment, from cloud-based players? What are we learning from technology providers in terms of efficiencies that we can bear to fruit and create a competitive platform for the next 10 to 20 years? When you look at the use cases, and we believe it's all about the use cases, if you want to make sense about journey to software networking, programmability, SDN, network function virtualization, all these nice technology enablers, I think the key point is to look at what are service providers and customers asking for in terms of use cases. This is a very busy slide, but you can broadly speaking organize those use cases around efficiencies, increased revenue, and expense reduction. So efficiency, agility, expense reduction, and increased revenue. The number one use case across all the three categories is about virtualizing CPEs and business customer premise equipment to have agility in the way we go to small, medium enterprise, to large institutions with not only connectivity and security, but really with a platform to sell, to expand into collaboration, efficiencies, and new consumption model. That's the first use case across all the three categories. The second one is consumer CPE. So how can we increase velocity when we go into consumer with a fully virtualized and agile architecture? The good news is that the journey didn't start this year or last year. Actually, in this industry, the major players are engaged into the journey to virtualization, programmability, and software-driven architecture since 4 to 5 years at this point in time. There are 3 or 4 benefits I would like to focus on. One is the overall notion of programmability. Programmability of the networking platform is something new in terms of the value created. I remember a discussion I used to have about 10, 15 years ago with software developers developing application on top of IP and at the time even frame relay. And I asked them, how do you see the network from an application standpoint? And say, to me it's a socket or it's a pipe, right? I know origin and destination. I probably know quality of service. That's it. So everything you can create out of the network platform in terms of identity, location-based services, security, enhanced performances, that was all forgotten simply because there was no way for programmers to program on the network itself. The other key trend that we've learned over the last 3 to 4 years of virtualization and software-driven networking is there is a new wave of efficiencies that will create a way more competitive cost base. When you start thinking about networking out there, collapsing layers, creating virtualized network functions. The key outcome is, in reality, to have a platform that creates a cost-competitive offer in the market. And the other key driver I would like to focus on is the entire journey to digitalization, be it country digitalization, enterprise digitalization, enabled by what we call the Internet of Everything. So connection of things to things to people, people to people, things and people to processes. So this ability to have a platform for bandwidth, for programmability, and for the Internet of Everything, for the country digitalization, are probably the three major drivers when we think about the journey to software networking that we have to bear in mind. Knowledge gap and skill gap. I was referring before to the different language that exists between network developers and application developers. Application developers think in terms of tiers, consumer relationship, they have their own language. Networking guys are more in terms of VLAN and plumbing and quality of service. So the revolution here with programmable networking is actually the ability to create a new ecosystem of what we call data developers. People who understand the nature of the cloud, of devices, and the nature of the platform, the network in between, and can create applications that program directly on the network. And we believe in the environment, in the African environment, that's a unique opportunity to basically train people and create a new ecosystem of data developers. Actually, as a company, we embarked into something like that about a couple of years ago with the notion of DevNet. So an open source, open community of developers who basically take significant use cases like routing for dollars, like enhanced security, like having the network as a platform for security to secure applications, and they develop directly code on networking. There is a DevNet community which is now accounting for about 300,000 developers that was built in less than 2 years. That means you start looking at the network as your key differentiating asset as a service provider, like I said before, for the Internet of Everything, to secure application, and to drive an end-to-end behavior that can allow to differentiate from over-the-top players. The other lesson we have learned is that there is no point in trying to design the future of software networking by looking at the present mode of operation or the past cliche. I mean, there are a number of things that will challenge this industry, will challenge the standard way of thinking about platform design and networking. The overall notion of reliability, as an example, and testing has to be redefined. I like the notion of what they call cow's monkey at Amazon, which is the only way to make system more reliable is actually to constantly bring them to failure. I remember when I was hired about 25 years ago, so that tells you a lot about my age. In the first company, one of the stress testing for system was like putting my hands on the keyboard and see what happened to the system. That was kind of naive. In reality, I mean, we need to redefine the overall notion of reliability, of testing, of velocity. We need to think, when we move to software-based networking, about what we want to achieve in terms of acceleration. The diagram here represents what happens when you start creating a non-linear television service, IPTV service, or video streaming, cloudifying, moving to cloud, the set-top box, the program guide, and the video rendering environment. Normally, in our experience in this market, designing, testing, launching an IPTV service or a video streaming services is something that, in the best case scenario, takes 6 to 8 months. What we did in a fully virtualized environment, with virtual video delivery, virtualized set-top boxes, automated testing, that was the case with Deutsche Telekom in Croatia. We moved these to less than 6 weeks. So that's about velocity. And velocity doesn't happen thanks to technology. It happens thanks to the combination of virtualizing what we can virtualize, agile programmability, so cater for new developers who are data programmers on top of this network, redefine the overall notion of service creation, testing, in order to accelerate speed to market. The other key thing we have learned in the journey to software-defined networking is what should be the platform enabled for. And probably the major transition in front of us is related to the overall digitalization of vertical industries. The overall hyperconnection on smart, intelligent objects, be them in terms of smart offices, smart industry, e-health, smart transportation, or smart cities. The implications for service providers is not only to provide hyperconnectivity. That's probably the easy bit, right? You can provide hyperconnectivity, anything to anything, with Wi-Fi, with LoRa, with Sigfox. There are multiple technology choices. The point is, you cannot even imagine to have those billions of connected sensors and devices connecting to the network without a level in the network of application awareness, deduplication, analytics. The network has to be ready to take this trillion of events by vertical industry, consolidate them very, very close to the end user, have distributed computing, analytics, and act as a platform for the Internet of Things. A platform that will allow local developers to program the behavior and create applications that are very significant to your industry in the local market. So it's no longer a connectivity play, it's a platform play. And the interesting thing is that when you look at the value today, a lot of the service providers, when they think about smart cities, Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, they think about connectivity. And actually the value today is probably 80% in the connectivity. We have learned 2 weeks ago from Verizon in their design for future network platform for IoT, IoE, how the value is shifting. And we all believe that in a matter of 5 years, or probably even less, there will be a complete rebalance for service providers, where the value of Internet of Everything will be in the business integration first, in the development of the platform, and probably less than 40% will be left in connectivity. So these are the mega changes in front of us. When we think about moving from hardware to software, we think about what we want to get from the opportunity to create a new ecosystem of developers, what we want to get in terms of efficiencies, what do we want to enable for the future. I think the challenge, there are a number of challenges, including skill set, including economics, but probably the number one challenge we see is not to move to an Internet of threats rather than Internet of Things. The overall surface of attack in terms of security, when you move to this hyper-connected environment of connected objects, processes, and people, the overall surface of attack increased by 3 orders of magnitude. Everything that is IP addressable, in principle, could be attacked. That's an interesting statistic from Information is Beautiful. They're collecting the number of threat attacks and cybersecurity attacks almost on a daily basis. And when you look at the bubble here in pink, these are all data hacked from employees, the Snowden effect, right? There are very few security issues related to poor security product or technologies or lack of security at all. So what I'm trying to say is that one of the key issues today on security, especially when we move to a hyper-connected environment, is fragmentation of the approach. We tend to put patchwork around the networks and limit the security attacks without having the network itself being a distributed platform that understands what's going on, correlates symptoms, and tries to prevent security attacks. We acquired recently a company called Lancop exactly to be in that space, exactly to have the network at a distributed platform that understands what's going on at their boundaries, correlate symptoms, and try to prevent security, contain effects of security attacks, and remediate much faster. And this is a horizontal ingredient that will be fundamental as we move to Internet of Everything and fully virtualized software networking. I was discussing yesterday how those things come together in terms of megatrends we see in Africa with a flurry of fiber investment, high throughput satellite investment, and we've seen a lot of those announcements at AfricaCom this week. Affordable connectivity in terms of 3G, 4G, combined with Wi-Fi, combined with LoRa and Sigfox for Internet of Everything. We believe this will be unlocking the potential of the connected society. That will not happen without creating a local ecosystem of developers. That will not happen without having a platform that is truly programmable, having networking academy that can create those new skills and create a DevNet that allows to align network developers, application developers, and what we call data developers. Software-defined and secure networking, we believe, especially in an environment where we have much less legacy than, say, in Western Europe, will create agility. We have shown the example on IPTV launch in 6 weeks. Cost efficiencies. I deliberately populated the previous slides with a number of TCO numbers, not to drive attention there, but to say we have today technology that allows to have radical economics and an open platform that learns from cloud and cloud networking and allows to scale at the same speed of cloud networking. I'm not sure this is making sense of the transition to software networking, but I hope I gave some food for thought in terms of what is driving those transitions, what are the expected outcomes, and the opportunity now in Africa for a new generation of differentiating platforms. Thanks for your time, and I will be at the Cisco stand in case, or the Cisco meeting room in case of any question. Thank you.